Hello and welcome to Doing the Work podcast. Thank you for joining us again. This is the podcast for Dr. Joe advanced students to gather together to discuss, explore, and learn as we forge the river of change together. I am Amanda, and along with my co-host Lorelei, we are very grateful to have your time and attention for the next 45 minutes. Joining us again is Giovanna. We are very grateful to have her back. Today, we are going to do a discussion and a deep dive into some of the elements that we discussed in our previous episode. So if you haven't listened to that first episode, you might consider taking time to listen to that and so you have some context on where we're going today. But before we dive in, how about we take a couple minutes to connect our hearts?
Hello, everyone. I'm Lorelei, and I think it's so important to get into coherence before we expand our consciousness. So let us all, our participants and listeners, close our eyes for a moment, and if it feels good to you, let's put a hand on our hearts and take a deep breath in as we allow our awareness to drop into our hearts, the door to the quantum, disconnecting and unplugging our 3D senses from our environment and focusing all our attention on our heart that is capable of sensing the field around us. And with each breath, let us become more and more aware of our own field and expand our consciousness into that vast space between our atoms, that interstellar space, the same space inside us that is between galaxies. And let us expand our love as well as we connect our hearts to each other, amplifying our love, our connection, and our knowledge, like infinite mirrors reflecting into each other the vastness of humanity, the vastness of the universe, being present now, this fourth dimension of time, where all possibilities exist. Let us move this powerful energy into our throat center, to our fifth center, and have the intention of clearly expressing our greatest knowledge, our greatest truth, and listening as we move this powerful energy behind our eyes in our sixth center, getting ready to open our eyes and see beyond the veil with this expanded consciousness. One more deep breath in, feeling and filling all this space. And let's open our eyes with so much gratitude for being together.
Thank you, Lorelei. Thank you for the beautiful guidance into our hearts. And thank you, Gio, for joining us again and connecting and sharing your thoughts and your energy with us once more.
It is always a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
So today we're going to start in finding our interest paths and pick up kind of where we left off.
We are going to explore the topic of becoming unlimited, because when we've asked Giovanna about where she is right now, that came up a lot: abundance, freedom, and just generally being unlimited. So as it happens, all three of us have done the Abundance Live course of Dr. Joe recently, and we all feel that it has further deepened our understanding and expanded our experience. So we want to start by asking Giovanna, how do you define being unlimited, and just give us a couple of key experiences from where we're starting from the bottom, now we're here. Tell us how a few of those key moments for you.
Unlimited is just simply supernatural. It goes beyond our own humanity and uh, the uh, the way we've been conditioned. It goes beyond our physical senses. We simply recognize the power within us, that we are divine in every single measure, and therefore we are able to do absolutely everything without any limitations, you know? Yeah, for that we have to get past our own identities and all that. But yeah, that's pretty much how I would define it.
How about you, Amanda? How do you define being unlimited?
Yeah, I very similarly, I think Gio touched on a lot of good points in there, especially that getting beyond our senses. I think it's also this like sense of freedom in the soul. There's this recognition from the soul that says, yes, this is me. I am the creator in this reality. Um, and I think that's what brings up for me that feeling of unlimitedness, where it feels that lightening of my body, lightening up of my body, and even lighting up, with that just vibration of light within my cells. And I also think it's kind of on those day-to-day moments where we are experiencing this reality that has fooled us into separation, and we have that reflection of like, okay, what is the unlimited in this moment, in this challenge I'm facing? And I think that is a question I often give myself just as I go through my day. Where is the unlimited in this? And it's not that it's always this enlightened, perfect answer, but it really changes the perspective of the situation, because I know on a soul level that I truly am unlimited because of all of those, it's been imprinted in my DNA. So now I can at least feel it.
Yes, from this course that we did, it shifted my own understanding to now I see that it's the opposite of the victim mentality, which is something outside of myself can determine how I feel about the world or about myself, or can determine my response, or can influence me in any way. So I see it as just completely being able to raise above our environment. And I would love to ask Giovanna about any experiences or understandings that you've gained in this work where that have helped you to overcome your environment and be greater than your circumstances.
Yeah, it's been a beautiful journey because if anything, we have on a daily basis many opportunities to, to fall out of grace, or to be like, have like people with their behaviors and all that. And kindness, if you really look, for things, you're gonna find many. But, when you do the work and understand that we, with our identities, are many of many of us are walking this path of, it's what we call the river change, and we are recognized that we are limited by our own identities. So we are all in this. Some people are working on it. We trying to cross the river change. Some of us haven't gotten there. So I love to believe that we will at some point, but we are timeless. So it's happening to me now, and I'm in the process. So when I see those situations, when I see those people that really get under my skin and all that, and I don't have to go too far, it could be in my own home.
maybe even our very own children.
Exactly, exactly. So I just know it could be even me. Stuff about myself that sometimes just come to surface and I feel nauseated about it. I mean, it's like really, but then I go and the same happens when I look at someone. But it's important, it's important for it to happen when I look at myself as well with compassion. And I go, Gio, you're you're here, you're just doing it. So I give myself credit for that. I a pat on my back and it's like, well, you're gonna have plenty of opportunities to show better, keep moving forward, and you learn something new today. So it's wisdom. It is wisdom for me. So when I go and I see people that really get under my skin, they're gonna be walking that path. They're gonna cross the river change. They haven't gotten there, but they're beautiful. They're part of me as I am there. I'm part of them. So I remember that we are one. And if I reject them, if I scrutinize them, I'm doing that to myself. And it's not gonna take us any place beautiful or evolved. I remember that, some days it's super easy for me to do those things. Some others, no, it's not. But that's the work.
Very big philosopher, Jose Ortega, like I said. And he has this saying, Yo soy yo y mis circunstancias, which means I am myself and my circumstances. And back in the day when I heard it, I was like, yes, somebody understands me because and this and this and this, and that's why I come. It's very interesting to be in this other spot where it's like, no, I am me and I make my circumstances, because of how I respond, and how I respond differently to people makes them respond differently to me. And I was saying about the kids, because when we were talking about how you found the work and you had a little job, I was feeling a bit victimized by just like, oh, these kids, they always want something. I make a cup of tea, sit down, they so even the things I love and the circumstance and the people I loved most were still contributing to me if I wanted it to contribute to me being limited in certain way. So what do you have some examples, Amanda, of what things you've overcome or understandings that helped you overcome being limited by your circumstances?
Yeah, I was just thinking and reflecting kind of as you guys were talking about how one of the things that has really been kind of a relief for me is understanding that I really don't have to respond to anything. And that was a program that I was in a lot. I was always preparing with the correct response for whatever situation I thought. That was kind of one of the old things. And I just remember, and even now I still have to kind of like go, oh, wait, I don't have to respond to this right now. All I have to do is feel my heart. And sometimes that creates very awkward silences, but it really creates this pause. And even people when I'm interacting that don't understand the work, they feel that space. And there's this just kind of, it feels like a deep breath for them. And then I suddenly get into that space and it's actually making me reflect on this whole unlimited thing of like, oh yeah, I'm unlimited. I can just not respond. I can choose to not participate in this situation. And I have had specific situations, within my family. And there was one where I just really remember my heart coming in so strongly because I was, I was in a situation and I kept, what do I say? What do I say? How do I respond? And I remember my heart really strongly saying, you don't have to say anything. You don't have to do anything. You don't even have to put energy in this. You can observe it. And that was the first time. And that was a couple years ago for me, but it was so significant for me that it really shifted how I approach any kind of interaction where I feel like I have to present something. Sometimes we have this like role and we feel like we have to be in this role. And that is just another program that we don't have to take on. And this is like, my heart's just having this big Dr. Joe thank you moment, because the freedom in that, just being like, okay, I'm just going to be the observer. And yeah.
Gosh, I have the same where exactly in family situations where I was just be like, well, actually, I don't have to say anything. I would just start talking about whatever I want to talk as opposed to responding to that. It's like getting into it. Did that happen to you, Giovanna?
Yeah, yeah. And it's just no, I mean, thank you, Amanda, for sharing that because it resonates with me a lot. And actually after when you mentioned the abundance course and all that, that's one of the things that when he was defining the personality of an abundant person, that kind of abundant consciousness, he said one of the things is the emotional intelligence. And it's something that really, I love that one because sometimes we just feel like we have to say something, that we need to make a statement. And I know that it's the ego, my own personality wanted to show, when in reality nothing of that is necessary. It's just it's I'm not gonna deny it's a challenge for me. It's a challenge, but I love the challenge. It makes me feel really, really connected.
It is challenging, but that's part of you being unlimited and
Yeah.
abundant.
Yeah. It is good. It is good. And we challenge every moment, every second, and sometimes you feel like this doesn't feel right, right? But lately, and ever since I took that course, I see the blessing in it, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to grow a little bit more. And I just go, okay, well, it's showing me there's room for growth here. Yeah, we are. And when I talk about the quantum, we are the quantum observers. Okay, let's not just talk about it. Let's be that. Let's be
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
How about
Just
you, Wanda? Any of the definitions that expanded your
From the abundance course? Yes, so much. He did very good at drilling that into us and showing us, and then this is going to happen and then that's going to happen, and you're going to have to choose. Yeah, that's a good.
some very
Yes.
specific examples?
Yeah.
And then your car is going to break down,
Yeah.
and some very
Yeah.
specific.
I love
Yeah.
so much. I love so much.
Yes. Yeah. I was like, it's a good country song, right? Like, like oh, but I think what I got, like the best definition I got was the exercise of really refining my definition, my personal definition of abundance. Because once I really started rewriting it and rewriting it and writing it again, and then meditating on it and even giving, like really disciplining myself to take time to really refine what I wanted to define abundance as, then everything was like, oh, this is actually a lot easier than me just going, okay, I'm going to do a abundance meditation and feel abundance. And now it was like, oh, this is what this character as Amanda right now, like, this is what abundance is for her today. And we've got goals around it and like there's boundaries. And so that was kind of my favorite part of it, because one of the really important things that I was surprised about with including in abundance was this feeling of creation and having that feeling of just being a creator, being in creation. And what does that look like in my life? What does that feel like in my life? And how does that feel when I'm, you know, teaching my kids how to read or doing, these things? And then how does it feel like when when it comes to like the big stuff, the big vision things? So that was a shift for me, because it really refined how I was feeling about abundance, instead of it just being, some kind of definition that somebody else came with, some Webster, somebody like that. This was Amanda's definition.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Does anyone have a definition that you're comfortable sharing with the greater public?
Yeah. I love, that he listed different, just to kind of walk us through, what abundance should be. And it's like you could use and all that. I feel really, really comfortable with the holistic richness. I love that one. And also the simple excess. I love it because I love to give, love, and with years I've been refining this, because at first when I was giving, it's because I didn't know how to receive.
That's
Before I started
interesting.
doing the, yeah,
Can you expand on that? Giving
yeah.
because you
So
didn't know how to receive.
yeah, I didn't. I just when I was I've been since I can have memory, I always wanted to share and give and protect and just give, and I did that for my younger siblings. I've done that for my family, for friends. And to the point that sometimes and I think it's been generous because I have given from what I need. So to me, that's true generosity. But then I realized that I was feeling very uncomfortable receiving. So there was some sort of lack of humility, and I just learned that about me by doing the work. I started kind of mixing these two together. So it's both ways. It's both ways.
I
So
can
I
relate to
still
that. That's very interesting. I can relate because I'll be uncomfortable because I didn't want to see myself as somebody that needed something. I wanted to be the one that gives to the detriment of myself. And I don't know if it's because of growing up poor or it's, you kind of have to find some empowerment wherever you can. So it's like, I am a giver. Hey. But I think this is the first time I hear someone really diving into the topic of giving because you're uncomfortable receiving. So I don't know if Amanda,
yeah.
you have something to add there too.
I think I love how we're all really nodding here because that was ringing very true for me as well. The sense of like, generosity had a certain badge. It was like my Girl Scouts badge. Like I'm a generous person. I give, and I realized that too. Like there was this pride of, well, I'm the one that is the generous one, but I was willing to give. I was willing to be generous. But then I took on this program of resentment of, this kind of secret, unspoken, but feeling of like, well, where's my portion? And once I really started kind of being honest about that with myself and going, oh, okay, there has to be a flow. And if I am blocking the flow with whatever program I think I can protect myself with or whatever it is I'm running, I'm not going to receive. I'm not going to get it. I'm not going to like be as generous as I really want to be. Like then my generosity is even coming from a place where, I don't want that to be the imprint on what I'm sharing with others. I want it to be this flow of like, oh, we're all together in this. Um, and it's just these open doors, the floodgates are open. That's how it feels.
Having this conversation reminds me that I think this was one of the first things I've actually learned since doing the work when I had a nanny for my youngest, and I started the work around that time. And she, she wasn't rich, but she would love to buy presents for the kids, especially pajamas. She'll go to Costco and buy pajamas. That was her thing. And the pajamas, were from Costco. And I would say, oh, please, you don't have to, blah, 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 blah. And then I thought to myself, I remember what it's like to be poor and what a joy it is to be able to give something to somebody. And I said, it's okay. Let her buy all the pajamas. The kids are not going to die of polyester. It's all right. It's all good. But that was my first realization from the work that there is generosity in receiving.
Yeah. Yeah. And if I may expand a little bit more on the abundance concept, when you talk, Amanda, you say the flow. I envision, I see myself being like water, just have that flow, Water doesn't resist, just keeps going, right? So abundance for me is also that it's an endless flow of all the things that are important for me, that I treasure, that I would love to have. And for me, it's like Dr. Joe mentioned, it's an endless flow of synchronicities and opportunities. It's an endless flow of creativity because I love by doing this work. And I'm sorry, I don't want to be redundant saying the work and the work and the work, but
No,
seriously,
dude, this is why we call the podcast. Saying
it's
it.
It's in the title.
is to me is creativity. It expands me. It is like an orgasm. That's how I feel towards creativity. I feel like I am beyond myself. I am beyond my own identity, my anything I could possibly think or feel. It makes me feel expansive and unlimited. So it's all this sense, and I don't know, just this abundance. The course really opened that door for me to refine it even, more, and just like what that represents for Gio. Like you said, Amanda, this is Amanda's abundant, definition now. It might shift, right? But
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love how we all come to realize that we do have different definitions of abundance. And Lorelai, it was kind of making me reflect on a conversation we had recently about nervous systems and how we're all different. And just that it kind of made me laugh because I was reflecting. I was like, of course, if we all came from source and we decided to come to Earth and have the same experience, what would we benefit from? What would we learn? We just all had the same experience, but we all get this inexpansive as we grow this universe, right? Yeah.
And what do you all think about creating from 3D versus creating from 5D? I've actually, when I listened, I listened the third time I listened to the 5D lecture, finally I heard it. He said the body can only create from the known, the mind can only create from its record of the past. And so every time you are planning, this is going to lead to this, is going to lead to this, is creating from the 3D completely. And the body is afraid when you take it into the unknown. So when the body becomes the mind, and it cannot predict, then you start getting all the bad feelings. But that makes me think, okay, well, then creating from 5D, it's completely not being able to say, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do that. And now I feel so good because I know what's going to happen. So what were your experiences in how he broke down? Here is 3D, here is 5D, and here is the melding together of the planes.
So when he invited us to do the 3D thing, because when I signed up for this, like and a lot of people from the audience, they wanted the 5D. I don't want to talk about 3D, right? So yes, it was tedious for me. I was like, okay, but I did see his point totally. And we are living this reality, this 3D reality, and it's part of
The
our.
plane of demonstration is doing,
Yeah.
it's not
Yes,
visualizing, it's doing.
exactly. So I go, okay, well, I have to acknowledge this part, because otherwise I wouldn't be living this reality, I wouldn't be here. I'm here. I need to acknowledge this and love it, and love it. So it has to start from somewhere. It needs to start from here. But then he's like, give us the 5D, which I totally loved. So yes, it is important. But if you go into the 5D, not knowing what are those things that you want, if you don't have a clear intention, so those things you kind of exercise on your 3D, and you set your goals, you have this clarity, and that you go into that 5D realm, and you have like this, it's very clear to you what you have to do. Now is game on. Now we just shorten the distance. We're just gonna do this and integrate both, because they kind of is this there's this synergy. They're not they're not opposite. I think they're part of each other, right? So I said, okay, this is important. And doing the 3D at first, it was not pleasant, but it opened that door for me. It brought awareness on the things that I really wanted, forced me to think deeply. What is that you really want? Because it was so vague. So I realized that I didn't want it that much after all. If you don't know how to define it, if you cannot kind of touch it, it doesn't exist. So then that 3D experience allowed me to become really familiar with that feeling, with those things that I want and all that. Then I go to 5D, and something that came to mind is, and he actually mentioned it, is the pebbles. When you throw a pebble, like let's say 3 pebbles in the water, you see the patterns, right? So now I have to go, what are going to be those 3 pebbles for me? So what is that? It's not going to be pebbles. What is that? I want my house. I want this. I want that. Right? So now from now you see the pattern. That's the pattern that I'm working on in my 5D experience. And that pattern I create is the one that is gonna throw me that, the what he calls the hologram. That's
The
the hologram.
hologram, the projection.
I
Uh-huh.
want it. That's the one I want. So and then you reverse it. You reverse it. But he said, be playful. And that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. I love that. That was a big part for me too. I had that 3D heels in the ground a little bit before because I was like, this is goal writing. But once I understood and I took the time to rewrite it, I think that was the point. Like that exercise of rewriting it was more like when I realized like, okay, I'm really just writing things and not being reflective. Like, let's get really reflective about this. And then taking in the 5D, because we still have the the meditation. So we have practicing, and that last meditation, we're deep into the 5D part of it. And then he tells us to tune into the frequency of our first goal. And I remember the first time doing that meditation, going like, wait, what? I thought that was at the beginning. Like, why are we talking about that again? But no, I get it now. Like, you're creating that imprint of that feeling so that when you're at 4 p.m. in the day and you're like, you know that you have your to-do list and you're starting to wrestle with the feelings of the now and what you're in and whatever your programs you might be running, and it makes it easier to be like, no, remember the feeling. I practiced this feeling, 8 hours ago. I remember it now. It's there. It's in my body. I can bring that up. I can remember that feeling. So on a very basic level, that has been really helpful. One thing that I noticed doing the course is that the things that I didn't focus on are expanding in my life, and in a very good way. Like, there's this abundance coming in a way that I wasn't expecting. So I'm obviously very grateful, but I'm just curious about like your experiences with that as well.
So I've had a different experience. The one thing that I really, really took from the 3D lecture was that those definitions of what it means to be a abundant person and what it means to be a lacking person. That was not clear to me, and that just made all the difference. And then Dr. Joe just really drilling in. Look, guys, I'm not going to teach you to like stand in front of the mirror and do affirmations or something. You got to do stuff, I do a lot of stuff. You got to do stuff. Like, don't think this is some magical fairy dust. What I'm teaching you is how to do those things with the fullness of who you are. So that was really important for me to hear. I did not have any goals. I didn't want to do X or Y or Z, but my goals were all about, I want to be that person. That's what I want. I think that before I had the thought of, give me this environment so I can be that person. Whereas now I said, I don't give a damn about what my environment is. I am that person. So all my goals were, goal 1, think this way. Goal 2, behave this way. Long-term goal, become this way. So when we did the 5D, it actually told me what my goals should be in 3D. Like, those feelings gave me the understanding of what I should work on right now, practically, the things I should do. So I think it's nice, as we talked about how we have different experiences, but we arrive at the same place.
That is magical. I love that. That is really magical. It's like yesterday we were going to, after the hike, driving back home, we took a different route, a route that we didn't know. We didn't have GPS or anything like that because it was an isolated place. The signal was very poor. So we decided to take the other route, and and at the end we scrambled, went into these places that we didn't even know. I felt like we were going into the unknown, and it dropped us off at the same place. So, it's like that. You follow your heart, Lorelai, at that moment. I'm not gonna say my goals, they're not gonna be, short term and this, and it was different, right? Probably not what he was asking for, but for you, that was the meaning. And then
That was
it was
the
revealed.
true expansion for me, because I am a business person and all my education is business finance. So I know how to set goals. That's not my problem. But the problem is that I would set goals, I will accomplish them, and then I will say, what the hell is this? I hate this. I don't like this.
Oh,
You know, that's doing from the 3D. So I wanted to be like, how can I find the goals that are truly, truly my goals? Like Amanda was saying in the beginning, my own definition of abundance, because I don't want to arrive and become abundant and still feel lacking, because that's not good. And I'm really curious about that fourth dimension. You mentioned it very briefly, but I always thought about, okay, well, we talk about the 3D, we talk about the 5D, but what about the 4D? And the fourth dimension is time. And he talked about, and I think we all know how Dr. Joe got into this thing, because he wanted to be in class and learn everything so he didn't have to waste any time afterwards. And that is an abundance. So the fourth dimension is time. Everything happens right now. Time is basically vertical. All the versions are here. Whatever we do now is going to affect all of the dimensions. There's no past, there's no future. What is everyone's experience and understanding about the power of abundance and creation and arriving to our goals by just, because if you are so present, you can do everything you need to do right now. It requires less prep time. So tell us about that, Giovanna.
so I think the generous present moment, that is abundance. That is pure abundance. In that generous present moment, it's like we become yeah, timeless in a way, timeless.
When you become timeless and you're adding, so 3 dimensions, height, depth, and length, and now you're adding this 4th dimension, which is time, and you're basically like, when you're doing the generous moment, this happened to you, you feel this fullness of all your selves, your past selves, your potential of who you could become, past lives, future lives, if you believe in that, whatever that is, you just feel it kind of filling your space, your presence, your awareness, and that gives you a power. And I feel that powers me to achieve whatever goal. So, for example, we're doing this podcast now. Me being fully present allows me to be aware whether there's an echo, for example, and then I don't have to spend so much time editing it out, or um, be in a conversation that is so great that I feel good about it.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's the full awareness. So it's like your senses are so in tune with everything. And you become, in a way, supernatural. So you see things with, it could be your physical eyes, but they're super eyes. And your super ears. So everything that you hear, everything that you see, everything that you feel gives you that input, that information that makes you highly effective, highly productive, and all that in this realm. Yes, it's like, we could be that. The ultimate goal is to be that with our eyes open, because we're getting input from the outer world, and that kind of constrain our experience, right? So it is that thing. Just that's why he always says, relax and aware. Relax and aware. So we are so present, living the generous present moment, that we are not intoxicated by the outer world.
I think that's almost kind of like the magic of the 5D, or one of the magics of the 5D. It's like the side effect is that your brain is at full, you have greater capacity in your brain. So you're problem solving faster, and you're not even really thinking. It's not a thought process. You're getting all of that information. All of your senses are open. You're taking it all in.
May I quickly share something that happened to me yesterday while I was doing my hike? It was a strenuous hike. Typically, people do it in 8 hours, but there was a point. Well, the weather was not perfect weather for it and all that, but there was a point where I felt full of energy. I did changing boxes in the car. the last meditation with Maylan. I did that, and I was in, I was in my great vibe and all that. So at some point during the hike, I felt this pressure on my left ankle. It was intense, it was painful, and I just go, nothing happened here. I became so present that I was so rooted into Gaia or Earth, or call it, whatever you call it. I felt that I was one. I was so fully connected that it just dissolved. It dissolved, and I was talking to my ankle as if I was one, and it was this beautiful conversation. It's like, okay, perfect, keep going. So today, after that, I felt great, and today I felt even greater. My body didn't resent the physical challenge or anything like that. Quite the contrary. So that is so, it's like that generous
Yeah.
present moment.
Yeah. What a great way to end, with an actual testament of the power of presence, overcoming our bodies, our environment to get to the summit, as Giovanna did. So thank you so much for your time. It was such a great conversation, so many takeaways. And I want to ask Amanda to lead us through a generous present moment, awareness, coherence to end this beautiful session. Thank you, ladies. It's such a pleasure to be connected with you.
Thank you.
Thank you both so much. And I could just feel the expansion of our conversation today. So, closing our eyes, we're just dropping back into that place, deeper into our hearts, deeper into the seed of creation, connecting our hearts, mine, to Lorelei, Gio, and then connecting with our listeners and our community at large, feeling the unconditional love, the intelligent love that we have all become so familiar with through this work, through Dr. Joe. Breathing through our hearts, centering on gratitude, appreciation for each of our individuals and collectively together journey through this expansion of our understanding, our experiences, our joy, and the universe and ultimate. And I just want to add a little extra gratitude for Dr. Joe, for what he's brought, and how so much of this has been made possible through his work, and then through the work of all of us that have committed to it. Another deep breath in through our hearts. And exhale. Coming back for a beautiful goodbye. I love you both. Have a beautiful day.